Case number 1. The murder of Dorothy Donovan, 1991, Delaware, USA. On a quiet summer night in June 1991, the streets of Harrington, Delaware, were still. The sound of crickets echoed through the dark fields that surrounded the small, peaceful town. Inside a modest farmhouse at the edge of the road, 70-year-old Dorothy Donovan prepared to sleep. She was a kind, soft-spoken woman, well known in her community for her warmth and generosity. That night, however, would be the last time anyone saw her alive. Just a few miles away, her son Charles Holden, a truck driver, had just finished his shift. Exhausted, he was driving home down Route 14 when he noticed a man standing on the roadside waving for a ride. He hesitated for a moment, but in a small town, it wasn't uncommon to help someone out. So, Charles slowed down and picked up the stranger. The man climbed into the truck, thanking Charles, and asked to be dropped off near a fast food restaurant. But when they reached the spot, his tone changed. He said he wanted to go farther to another location, and when Charles refused, the man's voice grew cold. Something about him suddenly felt dangerous. Charles pulled into the parking lot of the fast food place, told the man this was as far as he was going, and asked him to get out. The stranger stared at him for a moment, then quietly opened the door and stepped out. Charles didn't think much more of it. He drove away, relieved to be alone again. But just a few hours later, everything changed. When Charles reached home, the lights in his mother's house were still on. It was strange. She always went to bed early. As he stepped inside, he noticed the door was slightly open. He called out her name. No answer. When he reached her bedroom, what he saw froze him in place. Dorothy was lying in bed, covered in blood. She'd been stabbed multiple times. The room showed signs of a struggle, drawers pulled open, objects thrown on the floor. Charles stumbled outside, panicked, and called 911. When police arrived, they found no signs of forced entry. Whoever had killed Dorothy had simply walked in. The attack seemed personal, but the motive was unclear. Her purse was untouched. Nothing appeared stolen. Detectives immediately questioned Charles. After all, it was standard procedure. He was the last person to have seen her alive. But when he told them about the hitchhiker, the story took a strange turn. He described the man in detail. Medium build, dark clothes, possibly in his late 20s. Police began searching the area, checking nearby motels, gas stations, and restaurants. But no one remembered seeing him. It was as if the man had vanished into the night. Over the following weeks, suspicion grew. Some in the community began to wonder, had Charles made up the story to cover his own guilt? Even investigators weren't sure. There was no physical evidence linking anyone else to the crime, and the case slowly went cold. Years passed. Dorothy's murder became one of those quiet tragedies that linger in the background of small-town life, remembered only by those who loved her. Then, in 2003, more than a decade later, a routine DNA test changed everything. A match appeared in the national database. A man named John Hicks, serving time in Florida for a violent assault. His DNA matched samples taken from the crime scene. Detectives flew to Florida to interview him, and what they heard was chilling. Hicks admitted to killing Dorothy Donovan. He said he had been the same man Charles had picked up that night, the hitchhiker. After Charles dropped him off, Hicks said he became angry. Drunk, frustrated, and seeking revenge, he walked to the nearest house he could find. That house belonged to Dorothy. He broke in, attacked her, and stabbed her repeatedly before fleeing into the darkness. He had no personal connection to her, no reason beyond pure rage. After confessing, Hicks told investigators he didn't even know her name until years later, when he saw it mentioned in a newspaper article about unsolved murders. For 12 years, Charles Holden had lived under the shadow of suspicion, and in a single confession, the truth finally set him free. Justice, though late, had come. Dorothy Donovan's story is one of the cruelest twists of fate. A son's act of kindness to a stranger led that stranger straight to his mother's door. A reminder that sometimes evil doesn't come looking for you. It's just passing by, waiting for a chance to strike. Dorothy's story shows how fate and timing can turn an ordinary act into tragedy. But our next case reveals how persistence, science, and time can turn mystery into truth, even decades after death. Case number 2, the murders of Mark Dribbin. Kenneth Griffin, 1970-1999, Florida, USA. In the early 1970s, Florida was going through a wave of violent crimes, but few were as haunting as the murder of Mark Dribbin. He was just 19, a college student who had gone out for the evening in 1971 and never came home. His body was found 2 days later, dumped near a riverbank. The scene was brutal. He had been stabbed multiple times, and investigators believed he'd fought hard before being overpowered. For years, detectives worked tirelessly. They interviewed classmates, co-workers, and even drifters who had passed through the area, but no solid suspect ever emerged. The case slowly turned cold, one more tragedy buried in the archives. Nearly 3 decades later, in 1999, another murder occurred in the same region this time. Kenneth Griffin, a 50-year-old man living in a small apartment complex. Like Mark, Kenneth was found stabbed, his home showing signs of a violent struggle. Investigators immediately noticed similarities: the wounds, the weapon style, even the crime scene positioning. The murders were 28 years apart, but something connected them. DNA samples were collected from both scenes. At the time, testing technology was still developing, but by the early 2000s, new methods allowed cold case detectives to revisit old evidence. When they compared the DNA from both crimes, the results were shocking. It was a match. The same person had killed both Mark Dribbin and Kenneth Griffin nearly 3 decades apart. Now, all investigators needed was a name. They ran the profile through the national database and eventually got a hit: Eugene Garner, a career criminal who had been in and out of prison since the 1970s. His DNA was collected after a domestic assault arrest, and it matched both murder scenes perfectly. When confronted, Garner initially denied everything. He claimed he didn't even know either victim, but under mounting evidence, he eventually confessed, at least partially. He admitted to killing Mark Dribbin in 1971, saying it had started as a robbery gone wrong. He claimed they'd gotten into an argument, and he lost control. The same excuse, he said, applied to Kenneth Griffin, a man he'd met years later during a dispute over money. But detectives didn't buy it completely. Both murders showed signs of rage far beyond a robbery. The wounds were excessive, personal, and eerily similar, as if Garner had relived the same crime twice. For decades, 2 families had waited for answers. When they finally heard the truth, it brought relief, but also horror. Garner was convicted of both murders and sentenced to life without parole. He would die behind bars. His violent pattern finally ended. Though, what made the case unforgettable wasn't just the brutality, but the timeline. 28 years apart, 2 lives taken in the same vicious way by the same hands. The evidence had always been there. It just needed time to speak.